Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today, we're going way back in time, back to the 11th century, to explore the mind of a philosopher, Avicenna,
Avicenna.
and his really groundbreaking ideas on prophecy. I'm particularly fascinated by how Avicenna connected prophecy to imagination and even like physical actions. So I think we're in for some real aha moments today.
Yeah. Avicenna's approach to prophecy was truly revolutionary. Like, instead of seeing it as just this mystical, unknowable phenomenon, he really tried to understand it through, like, human faculties, things like intellect and imagination.
Yeah. And that's what I find so intriguing about him. He didn't just like shy away from the mysteries of prophecy, but he really wanted to ground them in a framework that, kind of made sense, even if it meant challenging conventional thinking. So where do we even begin with his ideas on prophecy? What are the key building blocks of his theory?
Well, one of the first things Avicenna does is he categorizes prophecy into three distinct types: intellectual prophecy, imaginative prophecy, and prophecy of physical acts. So he saw each type as like a unique expression of how a prophet receives and communicates knowledge.
Three types. Okay, I love a good framework. Can you break down each type for me? Like starting with intellectual prophecy, what's that all about?
Well, intellectual prophecy is all about tapping into a higher intelligence, a realm of pure universal knowledge.
So like a direct line to the source code of the universe.
Exactly. And Avicenna believed that both philosophers and prophets could access this realm. But there's a crucial difference in how they get there. So philosophers arrive through years of like rigorous study and intellectual effort. It's a deliberate, hard-earned climb. Prophets, on the other hand, kind of possess this connection more naturally, almost like an innate ability.
Fascinating. So it's not just about the destination, but also the journey.
Precisely. And this distinction highlights how Avicenna saw a clear link between intellect and prophecy, even though, the paths might differ.
Okay. I'm starting to see how he weaves these seemingly disparate ideas together. But if it's all about pure knowledge, how do we get to the visions and imagery we, typically associate with prophecy?
That's where imaginative prophecy comes in. This type is all about how the prophet receives and transmits knowledge, particularly through sensory experiences.
Uh-huh. So this is where things get really interesting. Tell me more about this, like language of prophecy.
Well, Avicenna breaks imaginative prophecy down into two modes. The first is the ability to foresee specific events, past, present, or future. That's the aspect that often captures our imagination, the idea of predicting the future. But there's another equally important mode: translating universal truths into more concrete, imaginative terms, terms that are more understandable.
So it's not just about seeing the future, but also about making complex truths accessible to others. Almost like translating a complex equation into a language everyone can understand.
Yes, and that's where the visions, dreams, and symbolic language come in. Avicenna believed these weren't just random occurrences, but, like real perceptions of a different kind of reality. And they're shaped by the prophet's imagination. They serve as a bridge between, the abstract and the concrete.
Wow. That's really making me rethink how I understand prophecy. But how does this translation actually happen? Like, what's going on in the prophet's mind?
Avicenna describes it as a like simultaneous process. It's not that the prophet first receives knowledge and then translates it into a vision. It's more like the vision itself is the translation happening all at once.
Whoa, that's mind-bending. But it makes sense when you think about it. It's like the prophet is like a conduit receiving this raw data of universal truth
Yeah.
and then like instantly converting it into something, we can actually grasp.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And this leads us to the third type of prophecy, prophecy of physical acts. This is where things get really, intriguing. It deals with how prophets can seemingly influence the physical world.
You mean like the acts we often call miracles?
Exactly. Things that appear to like defy the laws of nature as we understand them. But even here, Avicenna remains grounded. He doesn't see these acts as supernatural, like in the sense of breaking natural laws.
Wait, hold on. How can something that looks like a miracle be explained through natural laws? I'm a bit lost there.
Well, Avicenna attributes these acts to the prophet's unique abilities, which, stem from their like profound connection to their own soul. And by extension to the universe itself, it's about tapping into a deeper level of reality, where the seemingly impossible becomes, possible.
So it's not about defying nature, but understanding it on a deeper level.
Precisely. And this ties back to, the idea of the prophet as a conduit, someone who can channel these deeper forces because of their unique connection to the universe. We've been talking a lot about visions, and I know you're particularly fascinated by how they work. And Avicenna offers a really insightful perspective on this.
I am. I'm eager to hear more. In my own life, I've always been drawn to symbols and imagery. So I'm really curious how Avicenna saw them functioning in prophecy.
Well, he viewed symbols as crucial for communicating truth, especially to a wider audience. Just as philosophers might use, metaphors to explain complex ideas, prophets use symbols to convey divine truths in a way that, resonates with people.
So symbols are like a universal language that
Yeah.
can bridge the gap between different levels of understanding.
Yeah. And Avicenna points to a hierarchy here. Philosophers with their trained intellects can grasp both the symbol and, the deeper intellectual truth it represents. But for many people, the symbol itself is the key. It's like the entry point to a more profound truth.
That makes a lot of sense. Symbols can be so powerful in conveying complex ideas in a way that words sometimes just can't. But wouldn't that also make them open to interpretation? How can we be sure everyone's understanding the same truth from the same symbol?
That's a great question, and it's something Avicenna himself acknowledged. He emphasized that the prophet's choice of symbol is incredibly important. It needs to, resonate with the audience, speak to their cultural understanding and lived experience.
So the prophet isn't just pulling random symbols out of thin air, that there's intentionality and deep thought behind their choice. Almost like an artist, carefully selecting the right colors and shapes to evoke a specific feeling or idea.
Exactly. Avicenna understood the power of imagery, the way it can, bypass our rational filters and connect with us on a deeper, more intuitive level. He even saw it as a kind of artistry. Think of how a skilled poet can use just a few words to evoke, a whole world of emotion and meaning. A prophet does something similar with symbols.
That really clarifies things for me. But it also raises another question. If truth is universal and absolute, as, many philosophers believe, how does that fit with the very personal subjective nature of dreams and visions?
Yeah, you've hit upon a key tension that has, fascinated scholars for centuries. How do we reconcile the universality of truth with, the particularity of how we experience it? And this is where, Avicenna's genius truly shines. Avicenna saw imaginative prophecy as a way of recognizing truth within the particular. It's almost like the opposite of, abstraction. Instead of moving from the specific to the general, the prophet kind of perceives the universal through the specific lens of, their own experience.
So the individual dream, the unique vision, it becomes a window to a larger truth.
Exactly. It's a big, beautiful concept, isn't it? It suggests that truth can manifest in many forms, and sometimes the most profound insights come from, those unexpected, deeply personal places.
It really challenges that idea that truth has to be cold and impersonal. Avicenna seems to be saying that it can be, vibrant and alive, something we can connect with on an emotional and even sensory level.
And that's why his work still resonates with us today. He wasn't content with simply explaining prophecy. He wanted to understand, its implications for how we view ourselves, the universe, and our place within it.
That brings me to something I've been wondering about. You've explained how Avicenna saw these seemingly supernatural events, like miracles, as having natural explanations rooted in the soul and a deep connection to the universe. But what does that mean for us? Does it suggest that we all have this potential within us, even if, we're not prophets?
That's a fascinating question, and one that Avicenna's work certainly invites us to ponder. If even extraordinary phenomena can be understood through natural principles, then perhaps what we perceive as, limitations are merely boundaries waiting to be, pushed.
So, he's saying that the supernatural might just be the natural waiting to be discovered,
Yeah.
that our potential is far greater than we realize.
Yeah, and maybe the key to unlocking that potential lies in cultivating those same faculties that Avicenna emphasized: intellect, imagination, and a deep connection to, the world around us.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. Avicenna's ideas, they really challenge us to look beyond the surface, to consider the possibility that what we perceive as extraordinary might simply be a glimpse into a deeper reality that
Yeah.
we're not yet fully equipped to grasp.
And he reminds us that, the journey of discovery doesn't end with simply acquiring knowledge. It's about integrating that knowledge into our lives, using it to, ask bigger questions and ultimately to live more fully and consciously.
That's such a powerful message, and one I think we can all take to heart. So, to our listeners, as you continue your own exploration of this fascinating topic, I encourage you to embrace curiosity, challenge your assumptions, and never stop seeking deeper truths wherever they may lead.